At precisely 8:03 a.m. on a warm spring morning, rancher Bo Edwards was conducting his routine check of the perimeter fence on his 35-acre Brazos County property when he heard the distant whine of a patrol vehicle. He glanced up from tightening a loose wire strand to see Deputy Miguel Santos's white and blue cruiser pull through the cattle guard at his driveway entrance. Bo straightened, wiped a bead of sweat from his brow, and walked over, expecting perhaps a welfare check or a question about stray cattle. Instead, Deputy Santos stepped out, holstered hand resting lightly on his hip. "Morning, Mr. Edwards," he called across the dusty yard. "We've had a complaint about livestock encroaching on adjacent property. Sheriff's office asked me to see what's going on." Before Bo could answer, a black SUV roared up behind the cruiser, tires crunching on gravel. Out jumped Gloria Bishop, the newly elected president of Meadowbrook Covenant's Homeowners Association. She marched toward them, clipboard in hand, face set in determination. "Deputy," she began breathlessly, "I'm telling you, those cows of his have been trampling my flower beds and leaving droppings on my lawn. This is a clear violation of HOA regulations." Deputy Santos raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, this is a private ranch. HOA jurisdiction doesn't extend here." He offered a nod to Bo. "Mind if I take a quick look at your boundary markers?" Bo, ever courteous, led them to the western fence line, where stout T-posts lined up in a straight row. Each corner was marked by a painted survey stake bearing his name and the county recorder's stamp. Gloria hovered by the fence, tapping her foot. She pointed aggressively at patches of flattened grass. "That damage is from your livestock. I've been picking clover for Queen Anne's lace all morning and nearly tripped over cow patties." Bo examined the ground. A few dung pats lay on his side of the fence, but none had crossed over into the adjacent HOA greenbelt. "Deputy," he said calmly, "those spots fall squarely inside my property line. If you check the survey map, you'll see the HOA boundary begins 6 feet beyond that tree line." He nudged aside a slender live oak sapling to reveal a red-topped stake. "Here's my boundary marker. Their flower beds start over there." Deputy Santos knelt, read the inscription, and nodded thoughtfully. Behind him, Gloria bristled. "That stake is new. You moved it after I complained." "Actually," Bo replied, "it's been there since 2012, when I subdivided this land for tax purposes. You can verify at the county clerk's office." He gestured toward his farmhouse. "You're welcome to come inside and see the plats." At that moment, Gloria's composure slipped. She opened her mouth to argue, then glanced sideways at the patrol car. The deputy was already on his radio, requesting a boundary confirmation from dispatch. Bo stepped back, hands open in a gesture of good faith. "Deputy Santos, I respect your duty, and I don't want any trouble with the HOA or the law. I've always kept my cattle well within my fence, and I'd be happy to split the cost of adding an extra strand of wire if it gives everyone peace of mind." Gloria stepped forward, arms akimbo. "I want that fence replaced with a 6-foot privacy fence, and I expect you to pay for it." Bo's jaw tightened. "That's not going to happen." Deputy Santos straightened. "All right, let's pause here. I'll wait on official property line verification before taking any enforcement action." He gave Bo a respectful nod. "Thanks for your cooperation." As Deputy Santos returned to his cruiser, Gloria fumed but fell silent. Bo watched the SUV drive away, then turned back to his pasture. The incident left him unnerved, yet quietly determined. He knew his land rights were solid. What he didn't know was how far Gloria Bishop would push before he had to stand his ground. From the moment Meadowbrook Covenants formed in early 2023, tension simmered between rural landowners and the tidy suburban enclave that bordered the northern edge of Brazos County. The HOA board, composed largely of part-time residents and weekend retirees, prided itself on manicured lawns, uniform mailboxes, and monthly dues earmarked for community events. Their charter, designed to preserve property values, stipulated that all improvements adjacent to HOA lands must meet specific aesthetic standards. Yet these covenants never explicitly covered properties outside the declared boundaries. Bo Edwards, in contrast, had called his 35-acre parcel home since inheriting it from his grandfather in 2008. He built his farmhouse using native stone salvaged from an old carriage house, planted a small orchard of peach and fig trees, and maintained a herd of 26 Hereford cattle that grazed on native grasses. His two young daughters, Lila and Haley, learned to saddle their ponies on weekend afternoons, and Mrs. Delgado's art studio, perched 3/4 of a mile south, offered watercolor classes to local children. Edwards valued independence, self-sufficiency, and the quiet rhythm of rural life. The initial HOA notice arrived innocuously enough, a letter posted on a community bulletin board, stating, "Residents near Meadowbrook are requested to maintain compatible landscaping along common boundaries." Bo filed it under "Not Applicable" and carried on. By summer's end, Gloria Bishop had secured the HOA presidency. An energetic professional with a background in corporate compliance, she saw the tidy lines of trim hedges and branded pool floats as emblematic of order. She believed that when properties abutted HOA land, there should be a seamless visual transition that upheld the community's image. Herein lay the clash. In mid-September, Bo discovered a second notice taped to his mailbox: "Failure to trim pasture brush to 4 inches or below within 14 days will result in fines of up to $200 per day." The HOA board signed resolution cited a narrow interpretation of the boundary covenant, but neglected to reference any official survey or recorded easement. Annoyed, Bo snapped a picture of the notice and sent a polite email to the HOA's management company, pointing out that his brush lay 2 ridges south of the boundary line and well within his own property. When that message went unanswered, he considered the expense of a lawyer too steep for what he regarded as petty grievances. Instead, Bo hired a licensed surveyor for $1,100, whose report confirmed that all disputed areas lay at least 8 feet inside his western and southern fence lines. Armed with the official survey and a printed map, he sent both documents back to the HOA board with a courteous cover letter, requesting they rescind the notices. They did not. Instead, a pair of HOA representatives, one a realtor, the other a volunteer arborist, arrived unannounced at his gate. They claimed they were performing a boundary reassessment and began photographing his property, measuring hedge heights, and taking soil samples near his cattle crossing. Bo watched from the porch as the realtor, Ms. Meredith Cole, prodded at the fence posts and scribbled in a notebook. When he questioned their authority, she offered a flippant response: "By community oversight, we ensure compliance for all adjacent landowners." On principle, he refused to step aside and calmly told them to leave. They departed without a word. Frustration mounted. That evening, Bo's neighbor, Maria Lopez, mentioned in passing that several HOA members had complained at the last board meeting about unsightly animal traffic and excessive dust from his ranch roads. Lopez, whose front yard abutted both properties, suggested a joint approach, asked the board for a compromise on road upkeep and dust control. Bo agreed to draft a proposal featuring seasonal road grading, dust suppressant treatments, and voluntary planting of native wildflowers along the boundary, an olive branch of sorts. He delivered the proposal to the HOA office on October 5, leaving a paper copy in the Dropbox. 2 weeks passed without acknowledgement. Instead, on October 20, a certified letter arrived, warning of a violation hearing scheduled for November 1 at the HOA clubhouse. The letter cited failure to maintain covenants and threatened fines plus all costs of enforcement. Deep in his chest, Bo felt a knot of unease grow. He realized the dispute had evolved beyond simple misunderstandings into an active campaign of coercion. Late that night, he sat at his kitchen table under the glow of an LED lamp, laptop open to case law on property rights. He found dozens of precedents where courts sided with landowners resisting HOA overreach, especially when covenants applied only to HOA-owned parcels. He printed the most relevant opinions, highlighted key passages, and began drafting his own formal response. He would attend that hearing, he decided, with survey maps, legal citations, and witness statements from neighbors like Mrs. Delgado and Maria Lopez. As October waned and the first frost dusted the orchard, Bo felt both trepidation and resolve. The quiet life he cherished was under siege by an organization wielding authority it didn't possess. But he was prepared to defend his family's heritage, and the rancher's code of self-reliance. Against any board meeting, letter, or fence they dared erect. The seeds of conflict, sown by petty aesthetics and unchecked power, were about to be uprooted by his unwavering dedication to property rights and due process. Under the cover of darkness on a crisp October night, Bo Edwards lay awake in his master bedroom, restless after another tense encounter with Meadowbrook Covenant's HOA. The soft hum of his security system's control panel in the hallway reminded him that he'd finally installed motion-activated cameras around the perimeter, after the boundary reassessment incident had left him uneasy. At 2:17 a.m., the little red LED beside the panel blinked twice, signaling motion detected near the western fence line. Bo slipped out of bed, pulled on a fleece jacket, and crept silently down the stairs. His fingers worked the touchscreen, opening the Live View feed on his phone. The infrared camera's night vision lens revealed a slender figure, dark against the moonlit pasture. It moved with purpose, carrying a large, black plastic bag. As the figure drew closer to the fence, 7 feet of galvanized T-post panels lined in crisp, new alignment, Bo's heart pounded. He tapped the record button. Across the feed, the hooded silhouette climbed onto the lowest rail, balancing deftly before tipping the bag's contents over the top. A cascade of white, granular material spilled onto the grazing side of the fence, scattering across the grass and tangling in the rusty barbed wire. A low chuckle echoed faintly through the microphone. The figure retreated into the darkness, disappearing without a trace. By dawn, Bo walked the stretch of fence line, examining the residue, fine white powder clinging to blades of buffalo grass. His brow furrowed as he crouched to scoop a handful. It smelled faintly of bleach. Concerned for his prized Hereford herd, he texted a photograph and time-stamped video clip to Deputy Miguel Santos. Deputy Santos, FYI. Someone trespassed last night at 2:17 a.m. and dumped this on my property. Can you meet me by the South Corral at 9? Miguel replied within minutes, on my way. Have your survey stakes ready. Later that morning, Bo met Deputy Santos beside the corral gate. The sun was higher now, the fence panels glinted in full light. Santos nodded at the powdery remains. This could be hazardous, he muttered as Bo lifted a small plastic baggie containing a sample. Santos sealed it in evidence and called the county for a lab analysis request. Then Bo led him to the boundary markers, bright orange stakes emblazoned with, Bo Edwards, Brazos County Recorder. Santos squatted beside one, inspecting the stamped metal tag. County record confirms your name and parcel number, he said. Bo pointed to an adjacent blue-topped stake. The HOA's own surveyor had placed it during the 2023 development survey. That one marks Meadowbrook Covenant's northern edge, he explained. Santos stood and brushed grit from his pants. Looks like you're well within your rights, he said quietly. The deputy's tone was sympathetic, no longer neutral. Before Bo could respond, Santos tapped his radio mic. I'm logging this as criminal trespass and vandalism, he announced. We'll need to speak with Gloria Bishop. Bo's jaw tightened. I'd appreciate that. Within the hour, Santos drove the deputy cruiser to the HOA clubhouse on Ranch Trail Drive. There, he found Gloria Bishop pacing the foyer, phone pressed to her ear. Santos introduced himself and presented the footage on his body cam monitor. Gloria stiffened at the sight of her own silhouette, hood up, plastic bag in hand, tipping white powder onto the estate side of the fence. This must be a mistake, she stammered, glancing between Santos and the screen. Santos held up a gloved hand. Ma'am, I need your side of the story. She swallowed hard. I was testing a new weed killer formula on my own garden, and Your garden is across the fence, on HOA land, Santos interjected. But your actions clearly occurred on Mr. Edwards's property. That's criminal trespass, not to mention potential endangerment of livestock. Gloria's face flushed crimson. She lowered her gaze. Santos pressed on, "You'll need to come down to the station to give a statement. I'll also have the lab fast-track that powder analysis." He handed her a courtesy card with his badge number. "If you want to avoid charges, full cooperation is your best option." Back at the ranch, Bo thanked Santos for his prompt action. The deputy climbed into his cruiser and nodded. "Mr. Edwards, I've reviewed the township's jurisdiction map, the deed records, and now the footage. I'm confident you acted lawfully by setting up these cameras. I'll ensure the district attorney sees this as clear evidence of HOA-related misconduct." Bo watched the cruiser fade down the drive, a sense of relief washing over him. He returned to inspect the fence again, running his hand along the top rail. The white powder was gone, washed away by afternoon dew, but its impact remained. For the first time, the HOA president's misconduct was officially documented, shifting the balance decisively in Bo's favor. That evening, he reviewed the lab results sent by email. The substance was a concentrated bleach compound, capable of corroding metal and irritating animal mucous membranes. He printed the analysis and placed it in his HOA dispute binder alongside the survey maps and correspondence. With Deputy Santos now on his side, Bo felt a renewed sense of confidence. The midnight incursion, once a frightening violation, had become his strongest piece of evidence yet. With the sheriff's office investigating and his own documentation airtight, he was prepared to take the next steps in defending his family's land and livelihood. Part 4. Compassion at dawn. On a brisk November morning, Bo Edwards was surveying the East Corral when he noticed movement beyond the weathered oak fence. A pale figure crouched by the hay feeder, just beyond the ranch light's glow, peering at the herd. Instinctively, Bo reached for the heavy lantern by the barn door and approached quietly. As he drew nearer, the silhouette emerged, a teenage boy with dirt-smudged jeans, a threadbare hoodie, and eyes wide with fear. He looked barely 15, skins and bones beneath his hood. Bo's heartbeat quickened, but his voice remained calm. "Hey there, son. You lost?" The boy flinched, pressing himself against a fence post. "Please don't call the cops," he whispered. "I ran away." By the lantern's light, Bo could see dried tears on the boy's cheeks. He knelt, setting the lantern on a stump. "Name's Bo. You okay?" he said softly. The boy glanced around, fear in his eyes. "Tyler," he murmured. "They said they'd lock me up if I ran." Inside the barn, Bo fetched a steaming mug of cocoa and a peanut butter sandwich. He led Tyler to a clean stall, setting the tray on a bale. "No one's locking you up here," he assured. "Eat up." Tyler's hands trembled as he took the mug. With each sip, color returned to his cheeks. As Tyler ate, Bo studied him. The boy's clothes were worn, shoes with holes. "Where'd you come from?" Bo asked gently. Tyler swallowed. "Foster home." They weren't, it wasn't good." Bo felt a tug in his chest. He'd seen children pass through county care, some found stable homes, others vanished into neglect. "You safe here," Bo said. "I'll call my wife, Caroline. She's got blankets." Caroline arrived minutes later, worry etched on her face. She brought warm clothes, fresh towels, and a kind smile. Tyler's shoulders slumped with relief. He clutched the blanket like a lifeline. Later, outside by the corral, Bo and Caroline spoke quietly. "We can't let him wander," Caroline said. "But he's scared of foster care." Bo nodded toward the fence. On the other side lay Meadowbrook Covenant's manicured lawns, where Gloria Bishop had once argued that Bo's corral was an eyesore. Yet now, as he watched Tyler lean against the fence, Bo resolved to extend safety, not walls. Truthfully, reporting Tyler to Child Protective Services might send him back to a home he dreaded. Bo clenched his jaw. He would find another way. Whatever the cost, this boy would have a chance to heal. Part 5, a sanctuary rebuilt over the next week. Bo set his mind to transforming the corral's old tack shed into a makeshift refuge for Tyler Monroe. The shed's roof leaked, and the wooden boards were warped, but its sturdy frame promised potential. Bo and Caroline cleared out old feed sacks and cobwebs, while their daughters, Lila and Haley, painted the walls with bright summer sky blue. On Saturday morning, Caroline and the girls cooked a hearty breakfast. Scrambled eggs, bacon, pancakes, and sat Tyler at the farmhouse table. He ate quietly, eyes sparkling at each new flavor. Between bites, he told them about the homes he'd stayed in, one with strict rules and no kindness, another where he'd gone weeks without a warm blanket. Moved by his story, Bo proposed a reconstruction plan. He'd tear out the shed's rotten floorboards, install insulation, rewire the lantern for proper lighting, and build a small loft bed with warm blankets. Tyler listened, hope flickering in his gaze. Meanwhile, across the street at the HOA clubhouse, Gloria Bishop seethed. Learning of the runaway teen's presence, she had called county inspectors to report potential child endangerment on private property. Caroline's calls went unanswered, and the next day, two stern figures in gray uniforms appeared at Bo's gate. Bo met them in the driveway, hands in his pockets. He offered polite greetings. The lead inspector, Ms. Veronica Heath, showed credentials and a clipboard. "We received a complaint that a minor is being hidden without proper guardianship," she announced. Bo pointed to his house. "You're welcome to verify records. Tyler Monroe is safe, and we're providing for his immediate needs. I understand the laws, and I'll show you signed voluntary guardianship papers, pending Tyler's best interest." He led them inside the tack shed, with its torn boards, exposed insulation, and fresh paint, then into the living room, where Caroline displayed typed papers, a notarized affidavit granting provisional care, and a promise to connect Tyler with therapy and education. Heath reviewed the documents, her stern expression softening. "I'll need to verify with legal counsel," she said. Before leaving, she warned Bo that any future construction without permits could violate code. Bo nodded, understanding the legal tightrope. That evening, Bo surveyed the shed renovation. With the inspector's conditional approval, he felt relief. He contracted local carpenters to replace floorboards and install mini-split heating, while his neighbor, Maria Lopez, volunteered to furnish the loft with linens and a small bookshelf. By week's end, the kooky old shed had become Tyler's nest, a safe haven with warm lighting, a cozy mattress, and a window overlooking the pasture. Tyler's grin as he stepped inside was reward enough. Here, he felt home for the first time in years. Yet on Bo's phone, a new email arrived from Gloria Bishop's legal counsel, threatening civil action for possible zoning violations. The battle line was drawn, Bo's compassion versus Gloria's insistence on rules and order. But as he tucked Tyler into the new loft bed that night, Bo felt certain that some rules needed bending to uphold true humanity. Part 6. False authority and moral fortitude. Midway through December, a black SUV rolled onto Bo's driveway just as frost glazed the pastures. Out stepped a tall woman in a charcoal suit, carrying an official-looking folder. She flashed a badge reading, Child Protection Services, and introduced herself as Ms. Diane Carlton, caseworker. Tyler, curled in a plaid armchair by the wood stove, froze. The woman offered a kind smile, but Tyler recoiled. Bo motioned her inside, offering coffee. Diane Carlton politely declined, eyes scanning the living room, photographs of the family, degrees on the wall, the guardianship affidavit on the coffee table. "I'm here to take Tyler Monroe into protective custody," Carlton announced, voice firm. "There's a court order requiring your compliance." Bo's heart sank. He gestured toward the affidavit. "I have temporary guardianship papers. This boy trusts us. Show me any official documentation." Carlton flipped open her folder. Bo leaned forward as she produced a document stamped with a county seal, an order signed by Judge Ramirez, ordering Tyler's removal. But Bo noted irregularities. The judge's signature seemed off, and the document lacked file numbers. "I need to verify this," Bo said calmly, dialing Deputy Miguel Santos. The line rang twice before Santos answered groggily. "Deputy, sorry to wake you. I have a CPS agent here claiming a court order to remove Tyler," Bo whispered. "Can you confirm?" Moments later, Santos arrived and requested a copy of the order. He examined it with a magnifying glass, compared signatures to his reference, and frowned. "This isn't from our CPS office," he said. Carlton's eyes darted. Santos crossed his arms. "Ms. Carlton, I need you to accompany me to the station." She protested, but Santos' voice brooked no argument. He handcuffed her wrists behind her back and led her to his cruiser. Bo and Caroline exchanged relieved glances. Inside the car, Santos informed Carlton of her arrest. Impersonating a CPS agent and unlawful removal of a minor were serious felonies. Later that night, Santos returned Tyler safely. "You're in good hands now," he assured. Tyler hugged Bo's leg, relief washing over him. In the days that followed, Bo gathered evidence of the imposter's activities: phone logs, fraudulent badges, witness accounts. Meanwhile, Gloria Bishop issued a terse press release blaming Bo for harboring a runaway and suggesting he'd misrepresented the situation. Public opinion fractured, but many rallied behind Bo's moral stand. As New Year's approached, Bo resolved to see justice served. False authority would not override genuine compassion. With a sheriff's deputy and a community now on his side, he felt ready for the next chapter, exposing the trafficking ring and ensuring Tyler's permanent safety. Part 7, The Truth Unmasked. In early January, Deputy Miguel Santos delivered startling news. Diane Carlton was linked to a known child trafficking network operating in the region. As part of a multi-agency task force, Santos provided Bo with redacted intelligence reports and a list of Carlton's known accomplices. Armed with this information, Bo coordinated with Santos to set a trap. They arranged a decoy transfer. Tyler, under the guise of being moved to a state facility, would be escorted by uniformed officers past the clubhouse where Gloria Bishop frequently hosted HOA meetings. On a chilly morning, the convoy, 2 unmarked SUVs and a patrol cruiser, pulled onto Bo's property. Gloria, unaware of the ruse, had driven there under the pretense of mediation. As she approached the front gate, Santos waved her over and introduced her to Senior Detective Laura Chen. Chen produced Carlton's arrest warrant and trafficking case file. "Ms. Bishop, we have reason to believe you may have collaborated with Carlton," Chen said. Gloria's jaw dropped. Stammering, Gloria denied knowledge. But Santos displayed security camera footage from inside the clubhouse, showing Carlton meeting privately with board members, documents exchanged, and Carlton's badge passed around behind closed doors. "I had no idea," Gloria whispered, tears threatening. But evidence mounted: phone records, bank transfers from HOA funds to Carlton's accounts, keycard access logs. Each detail revealed Gloria's unwitting complicity in the ring's logistics. Bo watched as Gloria was escorted to a patrol car. His stern gaze softened. He believed in justice over vengeance. Chen assured Bo that Tyler would remain in protective custody until foster care placement could be carefully vetted. Word of the bust spread swiftly. Local news outlets credited Bo and Deputy Santos for exposing the trafficking ring. HOA members who had opposed Bo earlier now offered apologies. Even Maria Lopez, who had once urged compromise, called to express regret that her neighbor had been drawn into such danger. In the clubhouse foyer, a hastily called emergency meeting ended in Gloria's resignation. The board dissolved the HOA's management contract with Carlton's affiliated services. Under new interim leadership, they pledged transparency and restitution for damages caused to Bo's property. Bo returned to his porch that evening, gazing at the corral lights. Tyler's laughter drifted from the tack shed. For the first time since October, Bo felt hope untainted by conflict. He had defended land and lives, proving that compassion, fortified by courage and truth, could shatter deceit and restore community. Part 8, Escape and Legal Crossfire, approximate, 500 words, late January brought renewed tensions. The night before a scheduled hearing over Gloria Bishop's lawsuit, alleging Bo's cattle had trespassed into HOA greenbelts, Tyler slipped away from the county shelter. He returned to the ranch under the cover of darkness, seeking the safety he'd come to know. Bo discovered him at dawn, huddled in the corral's corner, eyes bright with relief. They embraced in the cold morning air. Bo and Caroline resolved to fast-track Tyler's placement with a trusted local foster family while continuing to fight the HOA's suit. Gloria's legal team moved quickly, filing for an injunction to bar Tyler's presence on Bo's property during litigation. At the courthouse, Bo's attorney, Michael Trent, countered with evidence of Carlton's fraud and Gloria's unauthorized inspections. He filed motions to dismiss based on jurisdictional overreach and malicious prosecution. Patrons in the gallery, neighbors, journalists, church members, wore pins reading, "Stand with Bo." Judge Ramirez, recalling the trafficking scandal, granted an emergency protective order allowing Tyler to stay on Bo's ranch until further notice. Simultaneously, the judge dismissed the HOA's injunction request, admonishing Gloria's counsel for attempting to weaponize innocent procedures. Outside, reporters clamored for comment. Bo stood firm. "We love this land and believe in lawful coexistence," he said. "But when compassion meets conflict, some battles must be fought." His words garnered applause. Back at home, Tyler waved goodbye as the foster parents arrived, gentle, experienced care providers vouched for by social services. He hugged Bo tightly. "Thank you," he whispered. That afternoon, trenching machines arrived to reinforce the corral fence. New steel rails and privacy panels went up along the HOA boundary line, ensuring no future cattle stray. Bo watched as the sun set over the fortified corral, content that both Tyler's safety and his land's integrity were secured. Part 9, The Courtroom Reckoning, approximate, 500 words, the March hearing on the HOA's livestock violations brought the community out in force. Representatives from Meadowbrook Covenant sat in the front row, faces tense, while Bo's supporters lined the back, farmers, teachers, friends, and journalists. Judge Ramirez took the bench, her expression neutral but attentive. Gloria's attorney began with a forceful opening, photos of droppings on HOA lawn, a video of a cow stepping on clover blossoms, and maps marked in red where trespass allegedly occurred. He called Maria Lopez to the stand, asking her to attest to nuisance conditions. Maria, eyes downcast, admitted she'd once joined HOA complaints but now regretted that decision. Next came Deputy Santos. He recounted the trespass investigations, the survey data, and the midnight incursion evidence. He described how cameras showed all violations occurred well within Bo's official boundary. When pressed about HOA's route onto the ranch, fence crews, inspectors, even Carlton's imposter agent, he confirmed each was unauthorized. Bo's attorney then introduced the lab report on bleach residue, the affidavits of conditional guardianship, and Carlton's arrest record. It was a meticulous case file exposing a pattern of malicious actions against both land and life. When Gloria took the stand, her voice shook. She claimed ignorance, stating she'd relied on management's advice and never intended harm. Judge Ramirez asked pointed questions, about her knowledge of Carlton's credentials, her role in ordering inspections, and her awareness of the property line. Gloria's answers faltered under scrutiny. In closing arguments, Trent spoke passionately, "This is not merely a boundary dispute. It's a story of a man who opened his home to a frightened child, only to be met with orchestrated harassment by an HOA president obsessed with control. My client seeks not vengeance but vindication. We ask that this court affirm his property rights and dismiss these charges entirely." After a brief recess, Judge Ramirez returned with her ruling. The HOA's claims were dismissed, fines vacated, and costs awarded to Bo. She condemned misuse of HOA authority and warned that future harassment could lead to sanctions. Applause echoed in the courtroom. Bo shook hands with neighbors, tears glistening as relief washed over him. Outside, reporters captured the moment, Bo, flanked by Caroline and their lawyer, lifting a copy of the judgment. Part 10, Kindness Triumphant, approximate, 500 words. In April, with legal battles concluded, Bo Edwards inaugurated a new Easter charity event, Eggs and Acres, on his ranch. Pastures glowed green, fences stood sturdy, and children hopped between hay bales, collecting eggs hidden among daffodils. Gloria Bishop, now a private resident, watched from the crowd's edge, her posture humbled. Bo stepped to the podium, Tyler Monroe smiling from the first row with his foster family beside him. He cleared his throat. "When this all began, I expected to fight for my land," Bo said. "Instead, I discovered what it means to defend what's right." He recounted the trespass, the midnight vandalism, and Tyler's arrival, each challenge forging a stronger bond between him, his community, and the land he loved. But the greatest victory, he continued, was extending kindness to a frightened boy and watching a community unite. After his speech, Bo offered Gloria a small bouquet of bluebonnets. She accepted with a nod, tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You showed me what truly matters." Bo smiled. "Kindness is strength," he replied. The day ended with laughter, shared meals, and a heartfelt sense of unity. The corral, once a contested boundary, now hosted equestrian demos and charity wagon rides. Local vendors set up booths, and children decorated eggs under the shade of live oaks. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Bo stood quietly by the fence, watching families depart. Caroline slipped an arm around his waist. "You did good," she said. Bo surveyed the land, rolling fields, fortified fences, the renovated tack shed now called Tyler's Nest, and the renovated corral. He took a deep breath of cedar-scented air. "We all did," he agreed. In the distance, Deputy Santos waved from his cruiser, and Maria Lopez jogged down the drive, smiling and waving as she waved leftover eggs at her grandchildren. The HOA clubhouse, now overseen by a new board, lay silent beyond the far fence line, its era of overreach finally behind it. On that 35-acre ranch, where rules clashed until compassion prevailed, Bo Edwards felt an enduring peace. His land, his family, and his community had emerged stronger, bound together by acts of courage and kindness that no fence could contain.